What's up, everybody? We're giving this a trial run as a couple friends just doing a football podcast. We're going to come up with a catchy name for the next video. But for now, we're just looking to do a friendly football podcast, find out what you guys think about this upcoming fantasy football season and all different things. And here to co host with me is the one and only 3-time champion, Mr. ImprovPete.
3-time champion is correct. What's going on, guys? And welcome to our little fantasy football, not expertise, expert advice for you guys.
We may think we're experts, but we are certainly not. But we're going to give it a go.
To be fair, sir, I think you should be an analyst. Even in baseball, football, you sometimes even call plays before the announcers call plays when watching football or baseball. So it wouldn't be such a big surprise there for you.
That is fair, and I approve of the props, but you got Tony Romo sitting in the booth calling out every play.
Well, you're soon to have Drew Brees. Me as a Saints fan, very upset that I lost him last season, but of course it's remarkable, and you can make the argument, and I know we'll have many arguments on this show, but you can't say that Tom Brady wasn't phenomenal last year. He went to a division that sucked in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he brought them all the way to the Super Bowl. Granted, he had the weapons and the defense, but it's still just literally impressive what that man can do. And he took out two former MVPs in Drew Brees and in Aaron Rodgers, and then beating the hot Mahomes. So, I mean,
who's also an MVP.
Who of course is also an MVP, and who goes in most fantasies right now as the number one quarterback. So, before we get into that, you're probably thinking, oh, should I take Tom Brady right away? No. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to bring up a little PPR league and where everybody's ranked. We're going to talk about some players. We're going to talk about who we think are some big names to check out, see who we think, give you guys some insight if you guys are having your fantasy football coming up. But are we ready, Mr. J. Rush?
I'm ready when you are.
So let's bring this up. So, of course, there's a PPR league. And as you can see, number one, Christian McCaffrey. Now, should he be taken number one overall?
Absolutely. Know that answer. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, the points, I think Dalvin Cook is 70 points behind him.
What you want to look at here is you got the number one rusher in football the last few seasons only sitting at 5, and that's what PPR leagues do to you. Because as you've seen there, McCaffrey catches a ton of passes, Cook catches a fair share, Kamara led the league in catches as a running back. Not, receivers had more, but he was the leading receiving running back. And Devontae Adams is obviously the number one receiver. You can make a debate, Adams or Hill. But, and some people, as seen by these rankings, Diggs is in there, but Adams and Hill are the top two. But just want to point out, your best running back is 5th on your list.
So now if you say you lose the first two choices, McCaffrey and Cook is out, you will take who in that third slot?
Well, you drafted me last night, so you knew the answer was Alvin Kamara, as catches make a big difference.
But now, as a Saints fan, I'm not, being biased or anything. Kamara's a fantastic player. But my worry is with Michael Thomas not in the lineup for a good 6-7 weeks. Obviously, the Saints have this week 6 bye, so he will be realistically coming back week 7. And of course, he'll be the target for Jameis Winston. How Jameis Winston will be the quarterback for the Saints yet to be seen. Looking good. Obviously, they're doing they're gearing more towards Jameis Winston's play style, but with having Kamara coming in, do you think that he might be overworked and there's that potential injury factor? Because who are you really going with? The critics say, Callaway, but, Kamara will be the heart and soul of the Saints in the beginning of the season. Do you think it will be too much for him? Do you think he is that choice?
Well, you're going to like this first part of the answer. They do have Latavius Murray backing him up. So he's going to get a good share of touches, more than a third of the league's backups, I would say, because you got teams like Buffalo who have no defined starter, a few other teams like that. But he'll take some pressure off him. The problem is if the Saints get behind in the game, will it be Alvin Kamara catching the ball in the backfield all day long? Fantasy, that's great. Yeah, of course there's a risk of getting hurt, as seen with Saquon Barkley every year because the Giants have nothing. But now the Giants are starting to put stuff around him. Maybe that'll take some pressure off him. He's obviously their best player. They lost Jared Cook, so they're out tight ends who you can rely on. Like you said, Callaway he'll be the number one receiver probably to start. Is he a number one receiver compared to these other guys? Absolutely not. But he's great for sleeper leagues. Sleeper picks, and he's great for hopefully first bunch of weeks while Michael Thomas is out.
100%, 100%. So my next question then to you is, you're getting into the second round in a 12-man league, let's say. Who are you looking at? I mean, if Travis Kelce is ranked number 11 here, if he falls, is he an automatic 13th pick?
Well, you saw what our ESPN draft. He's projected to outscore the second best tight end by 70 points. So if Travis Kelce's there, why not take the number one guy at a position that you can get?
I did take him yesterday in our football league on Yahoo.
Absolutely. It's
a position. With Mahomes, if possible.
You definitely can. It really depends on the scoring. Your first draft you did, you have Hill and Mahomes, so absolutely. But big touchdowns are also a stat in that league. So, you get the guy throwing the deep ball to the fast receiver, you're getting double the points. Do I like pairing them? It really depends. Am I pairing Zach Wilson with Elijah Moore? No. Or any of the other Jets receivers, maybe Crowder, but you're not taking Zach Wilson. If you get the right things, if you can get Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers, sure. Allen and Diggs, sure. But probably Murray and Hopkins and Metcalf and Wilson. But after that, Big Ben and Juju, probably not. Deontay Johnson, those aren't. The receivers themselves might be good, but they're not ideal fantasy pairings.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we talk a little bit about running backs, talk a little about receivers. Tight ends, obviously, really there's just one in Travis Kelce. My thought to you is quarterbacks. I mean, you have the obvious choice of Patrick Mahomes, but you got to show some love to Josh Allen. He looked incredible last year. He's ranked as the second quarterback. I mean, I've also had a very lovely relationship with Kyler Murray, and I think with the weapons he has now in Arizona, he might be even a bigger threat. And I remember last year him putting up close to 30 points a week for me, so he's definitely somebody I would keep an eye on. And of course, I like Russell Wilson. I like those quarterbacks that can also move, can also run. You have Russell Wilson getting up there in age. I understand that, but you also have DK Metcalf. You have Tyler Lockett, two established wide receivers. You saw Metcalf right here on the list is ranked. I believe I saw him before.
He's there at 19.
At 19. So you got greatness right there with him at 19. I mean, if we take a look a little bit further down, the next you have George Kittle as a tight end. But I'm saying to you is, who are those quarterbacks that you need to take?
Well, I'm going to probably harp on this all day. The scoring matters. Our ESPN league is 6 points for a passing touchdown. That eliminates more of the rushing quarterbacks, where rushing touchdowns are worth more. The Cam Newtons of the past who inside the 10, it's Cam Newton's rushing touchdown, whether you had McCaffrey or not. Now you want to look at passing quarterbacks in those type of leagues. If you're in a standard league where it's 4 for a passing touchdown, 6 for rushing, then yeah, Josh Allen gets a boost in value. Lamar Jackson gets a boost in value. Obviously, Kyler Murray has a boost in value. So, the non-traditional, Aaron Rodgers may run 1 or 2 in a year, not like he used to when he was younger. But you saw last year Aaron Rodgers threw 40 touchdowns. So do you want a quarterback that's going to throw 40 touchdowns? Or do you want a guy who's, Lamar Jackson won me a league a couple years ago, but Lamar may throw 28 and run for another 10. But you're going to get those fantasy weeks where he scores 10 points, 12 points if he runs into a real good defense. You don't get that with the big quarterbacks because, they're going to get you your yards and a touchdown or 2.
So as you can see here, now remember, this is a PPR league. We have Patrick Mahomes And then right after Patrick Mahomes, right here, is Kyler Murray. And then we have Dak Prescott, which I think is very interesting, and then Aaron Rodgers. And then
Well, he
after
also
Aaron
Josh
Rodgers,
Allen
we have
right in front
Wolves.
of him. 37, 38,
Yep,
39 are all quarterbacks or
That's
whatever.
fair, that's fair.
37, 38 quarterbacks.
So, do you think that Dak Prescott will show up this year?
Well, you know all the Cowboy fans want to know that answer.
I think Cowboys and let me say this. Let me set you up a little bit. Is it okay to draft Dallas players? Now, I'm not saying trying to be a dick, but as of the last couple of years, the Cowboys with Zeke, with Amari Cooper, with Dak, really hit or miss with fantasy and not on the ladder, basically not really presenting good numbers, the numbers they should, that Zeke used to do, that Dak Prescott could do, that Amari Cooper was known for doing in Oakland Raiders time.
Well, here's where it's twofold. You see where they have very high ceiling players. You know, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup could all easily put up 1,000-yard season. Each, which is great for fantasy. But you saw what happened last year. Dak went down. Amari was banged up. Zeke came in overweight. You know, you get all those combustible things. Supposedly they're all looking great right now. There's been some negative articles about Prescott. There's been some positive articles about Prescott. Come Thursday, we'll find out which are true. Do I think it'll be a slow start to the season? Yeah. I mean, they're in a great division to put up numbers, but you're opening with Tampa. Tampa has a legitimate defense. Prescott's coming off injury. He didn't play at all in the preseason. So there's probably going to be rust to knock off. I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Will Dallas keep up with them?
Well, if I am correct, that Tampa basically kept all their guys.
And they made that mostly a priority. They lost a couple, but not anything.
But none of the big names like Godwin or Evans and
all the offensive players stayed. They lost a few pieces on defense, brought in, things not of the same caliber to replace them, but they have what they have. They know what they have, and they have the staff that'll make that work. Am I saying they're going to win the Super Bowl again? I don't think so, but every time you count Tom Brady out, guy just wins.
So now I'm going to bring our attention over to good old Tennessee. We got an interesting little wide receiver dilemma going on right now. We have A.J. Brown, who is, when he gets down the field, he's catching that ball, he's getting in the end zone. Bottom line, definitely a worthwhile pick for fantasy. But now you got Julio Jones there. And Julio really has dropped off in the last couple of years. Nothing bad. He still puts up some decent numbers, but not like he did with Matt Ryan and Atlanta a number of years ago. So on name alone, do you draft Julio Jones? Do you think that A.J. Brown and Julio Jones will both have defenses playing on them, and then that opens up a third guy? Where do you see this ball sharing in Tennessee? Of course, you also have, Derrick Henry. What's going to happen there? You got a lot of weapons in Tennessee. Who do you bank on besides?
Well, I really like A.J. Brown. The hope is that they'll feed off of each other. If one's out, one opens up for the other, etc. So that's the hope, is that they both can get it done. Logically, you would think Julio Jones would see more red zone targets than he did in Atlanta. So his touchdown should get a nice boost up. He's not a top receiver like he was a few years back.
Agreed.
Is he? I think he's a number 2 in fantasy teams. Definitely a third. You could roll him as your third receiver in fantasy, but I prefer A.J. Brown. Young, dynamic receiver.
Big boy, too. Very big boy.
Yeah, over Old Faithful. And again, I'm not saying Julio Jones is old, but he's old, definitely older than A.J. Brown is. So
it's very interesting here. You have 50, 51, 52. You have 3 running backs, 3 great running backs. Of course, I've always been high on Josh Jacobs. You have the Gus Edwards, obviously now a predominant role because Dobbins is out. And then you have good old Mostert over on San Fran. Who do you take out of those 3?
Well, if you look into it, Jacobs has Drake behind him. Mostert has Sermon and a couple other potential weapons behind him. Gus Edwards has Justice Hill. So going off of that, Edwards has the least, experienced backups behind him to take away carries. So you'd think Gus Edwards would be the pick out of those three.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So moving on. Now, obviously, drafts going on. You got a lot of the big names are gone. So we're going to scroll down a little bit when you have to actually look and see who might be viable options. So I'm going to come over here. We're around the 80s to 90s right now. You have a good old Debo Samuel. You got a good old, let's see, Marquise Brown. Juju. Is Juju going to deliver? What about Robbie Anderson? He didn't look bad on Carolina last year. I mean, so are these people you should be looking at and trying to steal early? Is there something where maybe I should wait?
Again, it depends on the makeup of your team, really, at this point. Because as you see, there's a couple tight ends here, a couple good tight ends here. So at that point, if you don't have a tight end, you can look at that. You probably have to give out of those guys Juju a shot one more time. Robbie Anderson's back with Sam as his quarterback, so is that going to be a notch down for him from Teddy Bridgewater? Probably. So, I mean, if I'm looking at those guys who they list there, if I need a tight end, that's where I'm going, or I'm going down further and getting something else, maybe a boom bust player, taking a risk.
There you go. There you go. So we're getting up here in about the 140s. You see, of course, going back to the Saints, Winston, you got Michael Thomas, Traquan Smith, who I've always liked, and then, of course, Hurst and Tuva from Miami, the quarterback who I've always enjoyed. Cowboys down there. So now, around this time, do you stash away Michael Thomas, keep him, and down in the IR slot until he's needed because you know he's going to be a predominant player? Or do you just continue to stack on running backs? Do you stack on wide receivers? Like you said before, it depends on how you draft. So if you get these big running backs or you get these big receivers, you got to look at what is best for your team. Obviously, you don't take a kicker or a defense, not until the later rounds. But what would you end up taking around here? You got Henry Ruggs the third, who always has been a favorite of yours, as I know, as is a favorite of mine, because I took him last year, and he ended up getting me to a championship game.
Well, we're going to throw it back on you. Which Michael Thomas is coming off this injured list? Is it Diva Michael Thomas? Is it ready to play Michael Thomas?
I think he's hungry. I think Michael Thomas is ready to play. I mean, you lost Drew Brees, you lost Mr. Consistency. If you talk about Brees, obviously towards the end of the career, throwing a couple more interceptions than I would like, but he's always the go-to guy. And with, coming up on contract, yeah, he was paid low. He wants to show why he's the best receiver in football. You have to remember, 2 years ago, he had receptions. He had the most receptions in the league. He was there, and you had that nice little Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, and it was that 1-2 punch. I think he's hungry. I think he wants to play. He wants to show that he can win a Super Bowl in New Orleans. He doesn't need Drew Brees. He's going to work with Jameson Winston, and he's going to be the Michael Thomas we remembered from yesteryear, not the diva, because he's going to show why he is one of the best receivers out there. You're going to put me where obviously you're injured, but you're 140 on a PPR league. No, I'm going to show you why why I am a top 10 wide receiver. Why you're going to look at me over Devontae Adams. Why you're going to look at me over Tyreek Hill. Remember, a couple years back, it was, who do you take? Tyreek Hill, you take Michael Thomas. That was a legit decision. And when you get into these midweeks of fantasy football where trade deadlines are coming up and you have to look and you have Michael Thomas stashed away and he comes out and gives you 20 points, that also is great for trading value. You kept him at a low round. You realistically get him 9th, 10th round of a fantasy draft, and then you use him, or you keep him if your wide receivers are not working out or you get injury.
So now say 3 weeks into the season, you're 1-2.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody says, hey, I'll offer you Michael Thomas, but I want your number 2 wide receiver. So now you're stuck with Thomas for a few weeks on your IR. You're not winning right now. Are you willing to pull a trigger? Banking on
you're talking to me about like a Robert Woods, Mike Evans, even like Adam Thielen. types. Cooper Cup you can even throw in.
Yeah, I mean, I know if I throw your third receiver in there, you're taking it. But now you got to make a decision. Your number 2 receiver.
And now the Saints are 1-2.
No, your fantasy team is 1-2.
Oh, my fantasy team is 1-2. Okay, well, and honestly, for me, it would depend on how the Saints are playing. Is Jameson Winston the calling card that we think? You know, he beat out Taysom Hill for the position. Obviously, Taysom Hill can play every fucking position in the world, but you're looking at Jameson Winston. This is a show-up year for Jameson Winston. He has to show why he belongs in New Orleans. He was under the tutelage of Drew Brees last year, and I will say, for the couple weeks that Drew Brees was out, he did deliver, and he was a winning quarterback there. But push comes to shove. You have to put this team on your back. You have some top tier talent on your back. You're looking at Kamara, you're looking at Michael Thomas, and now you have young, hungry rookies like Callaway. So, like I said, it brings me back to my previous point with Michael Thomas. If Callaway shoots up and becomes a hot commodity, and fantasy sleepers around the world are loving Callaway, Michael Thomas has something to prove when he comes back. So I would make that trade just because I know that Michael Thomas is going to want to show why he is. So for a second round pick, I would actually consider that. Third round, absolutely. You're talking about a first round pick, you know, where he was, like I said earlier, with a Devontae Adams, a Calvin Ridley, a Tyreek Hill. That becomes a little bit trickier because you know that Tyreek Hill can deliver. You know that Devontae Adams can deliver. You see it all over. If you follow on Instagram or Twitter, you see the NFL going, look at the Mahomes Hill connection. Look at the Rodgers Adams connection. They have a great chemistry together, and that's what Brees and Thomas had back in the day. But now you don't have Drew Brees. You have Jameson Winston. Is Jameson Winston, Michael Thomas going to be that duo team? Not for a first round, but I would take that risk on a second just because Michael Thomas has something to prove. He wasn't there at the end of the season. He needed to produce, and he is going to produce come mid-season. And he's going to show fantasy owners it was a good idea slotting him in the IR slot.
Well, with that being said, it seems like a lot of Saints players have to prove, you know, 100%. Sticking around. You got Taysom Hill being paid as a quarterback to not be quarterback. Mm-hmm. You got Michael Thomas needs to prove he's not a diva. Callaway needs to prove that he's worth his sleeper status. So the only one who really doesn't have something to prove is Kamara. And if he ends up falling apart, now that's going to be a bad look on him for the future. So,
but then that's why it looks that people are going, well, where would I take Latavius Murray? You got to look that if Kamara is going to be beat down, and I said this earlier in the show, if he's going to get beat down, they're going to look at Latavius Murray. He runs through people. He is a power back at the end of the day. He runs through people. He can get you a good 6-7 yards. And especially at the red zone, you're going to have Jameson Winston either keep the ball running himself or hand it to Latavius Murray or have Kamara out there. You have those triple threat right there in runners where where's the ball going to go to? You have the quickness of Kamara where he can catch it on the corner. You have Jameson Winston that can hold and run it in. And you have Latavius Murray, of course, to power in. That's why I'm looking at the Saints and Dallas Cowboys really in a similar situation, if you asked me, where it's time to produce and it's time to show why these guys are getting paid the way they are in the places they are being in. Are you going to keep Amari Cooper and continue to pay him? Dak, you know, look at last year with Dak and the contract and him holding out. It's
well, that's a big difference with Dallas is that, you know, salary caps come into play. They've lost a lot of players on defense. The Saints, yes, they have some bad contracts, but they have a little bit better flexibility than Dallas. I'm not saying it's leaps and bounds better, but now you're the Saints and you lost your Hall of Fame quarterback. Is it time that if this isn't the year, you know, this year doesn't go well, are you guys going to rebuild? And no fan base wants to use that word and hear that word, but, you know, if Michael Thomas doesn't produce or Winston doesn't produce, where do you go from there? Is it all on the quarterback? Is it he's not producing because of the quarterback? You know, does he not fit the team? Is Sean Payton the right coach for this team now that Drew Brees is gone? These are all
things. That could be an argument as well, too. Is Sean Payton past his – I love Sean Payton. I know a lot of Saints fans have mixed reactions, but like you said, is he the future right now for the Saints now that Drew Brees is gone?
Yeah, but that's the thing, but what is the next coach that you're going to bring in? If Sean Payton's not the guy. You bring in a coach that can work with Jameis. You bring in a coach that's going to bring in his quarterback. You've seen a couple of trades where like Philly's traded for Gardner Minshew. Are you bringing
Mania,
in
baby.
are you bringing in a quarterback like that, or are you just giving up and saying, "Hey, let's get the best quarterback in this draft we can get and mold this team around them"? You've seen, again back with Jacksonville, they brought in a college coach with the best college quarterback, and now they're going to try and make that work. Is that the answer where you say, "Hey, we're going to bring in," there's a couple of top prospects, but it's given oh, this team's quarterback, are we going to bring that college coach up with him and build our offense around him? I was going to use Spencer Rattler as a comparison, but I don't know. We got a whole college football season to see about that, to build around that. But there's a lot of questions for a bunch of teams. The problem is, a team like that is, what is their identity going forward? Are they a powerhouse in the NFC? Like you said with Dallas, or both those teams, are they a legit team, or is it time to blow it up and start over?
So now that will lead me to just a couple more questions, just to discuss. We look at the NFC, and of course, NFC North. You're looking at Green Bay. They are the favorites to win, but Chicago really not getting a lot of love. But they do have some great players over there. So is it something to look into, maybe drafting some Bears when fantasy comes knocking on your door? Do you think that Montgomery could be one of the best running backs in the league? Do you see Allen Robinson, who, has bad years, but last year didn't have a halfway decent season? He definitely did deliver. I mean, he won me a league in a 10-man. So do you see that Chicago might be something to look into? Because, you have Detroit with with Swift. Not sure about what's going on with him. And, of course, you have Hawkinson. So you got some good Lions players in there. So what's happening in the NFC North? Who should you be looking at? Or should you just say Green Bay is the team? Nobody else is going to beat them.
Well, a lot of experts like A.J. Dillon. Jones is backup. Okay, he was good in college. Let's see what he's got. Back to the Bears. Montgomery's good. It's definitely a solid RB2. You're not taking him as you're probably not going to want him as your first running back. You're going to want to do a little better. But he's definitely a solid RB2 no matter what quarterback is playing. Is Justin Fields the best quarterback on that team? Yes. Is Justin Fields the best quarterback on this team right this second? Maybe. Andy Dalton had great years in Cincinnati. He had elite talent around him offensively. He had an O-line. He had A.J. Green in his prime. He had weapons. He was really good. Then he fell apart as those weapons got older. Running backs got banged up. Didn't look as good. Went to Dallas. Mostly revitalized his career. Worked that into a nice little 1-year contract. And then they drafted Justin Fields. So do they say, hey, we spent this money, we're going to sit Justin down for a bit and let him learn? Or are we going to throw Justin right into the fire? If they're going to throw Justin right into the fire, I think that ticks Allen Robinson in the wrong direction at the start of the year. But at the end of the year, he may jump up and become top 7 wide receiver. Is that what you want to hear? Does he surpass Keenan Allen, who's now going to be in his second year with Justin Herbert? Maybe. Obviously Keenan Allen has a very long injury history. Looking on this board, you got Terry McLaurin right in front of him. Does he pass him? Just Justin Jefferson had the same year like he had in his rookie year. Can Allen Robinson jump up past them? That would be to determine. Is he better than Adams and Hill? No.
Calvin Ridley.
Is he better than Metcalf? No. I don't love Calvin Ridley because now Julio's not there. Is Russell Gage a good enough number 2 to keep Ridley at the top of the wide receiver list? I don't think so. So there's room to move up. Hopkins is what he is. For the most part, he can be a freak. So he's still a safe bet unless something happens to Kyler Murray, which, it's still, when you're an elite receiver, so as the quarterback's throwing the ball near you, you're probably going to make a play on it. So he's got room to move up. Will he have that dynamic? Is he going to have enough big plays with Andy Dalton at quarterback. I don't think so. He might get some more big plays with Justin Fields, but you're going to get the inaccuracies of a rookie quarterback. So I think I would probably play that more safe and look to the guy right below him, Chris Godwin. Maybe a Mike Evans if he can stay healthy. But don't get me wrong, Allen Robinson's a great wide receiver. You just got to know what stability they have there.
100%. So I think we've given the audience quite enough information.
Well, we got to go. We're gonna go with one more because we gotta get this. We gotta get this right here. If you had any sleeper you can pick this season, and I don't mean like obvious guy who you're like, wow, he's a third round talent. I got him in the fourth round type of thing. Any sleeper who you're getting in the back end of the draft, who's your guy?
Randall Cobb.
You think Randall Cobb's gonna get enough?
I think so because let me tell you something about Randall Cobb. He did great in Green Bay. He did, and he was always for those big plays. Aaron Rodgers went to him. I'm not saying he's going to blow up fantasy points every week. I'm not saying that. But I would definitely, if I had the choice and I needed a player, I'd play him at a flex. I'd play him at a wide receiver 3. I've always liked Randall Cobb. I think when he goes back to Green Bay, he's coming home. And that's what the feeling is going to be. And people are going to be always looking at Davante Adams. There's no doubt they're going to be looking at Davante Adams. They're going to be looking at Aaron Jones. These are 2 top-tier players alongside with Aaron Rodgers. But people don't look at, what's on the other side of the field? Randall Cobb, who's always been just a steady fantasy player. And, I mean, looking at this PPR league, we're going to look for him right now, and we're going to see where he is because I feel like he's definitely somebody you have to keep your eye on, especially in the later rounds. I've had drafts right now that he hasn't been picked up or he's not been picked up till the 14th, 15th round of said draft. So, I mean, you also can make the argument with Emmanuel Sanders. He's ranked at 165. Sanders was a great player in Denver, and he's still a great player. So, do you have those hidden little, let me take a look at him. Sammy Watkins, same thing. He did great in Kansas City. Now he's in Baltimore. How well is he going to do there? And let's see, Randall. See, I'm looking at this right now. You have defenses. T.Y. Hilton's down here. It's. I think if you need to choose somebody, there's no doubt.
He is. You finally found him.
But you gotta look and just see that he is the player to be. I think that is the obvious sleeper pick. I mean, you're going into a team that was in the NFC Championship. Why would you not? And he's coming back home. He's going to have that home support. Everybody's going to want him back. It's just going to want to make the players play better. You're in Lambeau. I would love to go to Lambeau Stadium. So I think he's easily the best sleeper pick. And down the line, I mean, yeah, you could, like we said, make arguments about Michael Thomas. You can make arguments about other players. But I feel that Randall Cobb is not getting the love that he normally gets because, he looked like shit last year. Like, he didn't make some plays, but now that he's back in Green Bay and then he works with Rodgers, he knows how Rodgers throws, he knows how he plays. You take the pressure off Davante Adams, you take the pressure off fucking Aaron Jones. There you go. That is my thought. I would like to get your thoughts on the sleeper.
All right, I'll give you that one, and I get one more for you, and then we're going to close this out. My sleeper, I got a bunch that I like, to be honest. I think Elijah Moore, being a Jets fan, is going to be a big one. I mean, like I said, I have a lot of them. Cole Kmet, if you want to go cheap on a tight end. But again, the uncertainty of the Bears quarterbacks hurts there. But those are 2 lower ranked guys. You got a couple of backups who could steal jobs. Williams in Denver will eventually probably surpass Melvin Gordon. Not a true sleeper, but it's a guy who's got a high upside, who's being drafted right around the 8th, 9th round, which isn't terrible, but he's not a high end guy. He's somebody who you're probably going to want to stash away. I know all the hype goes to the Jamar Chases and Jalen Waddles and even Devonta Smith, guys like that. They get all the love because they were the first rounders, but You got a team with young players, and that's how they develop. The young guys mesh together, and that's what they get. As long as you're not musical quarterbacking and musical coaching, you're in good shape. I think he's solid, and he's going to have a breakout year. He's definitely worth a bench spot.
There you go.
And like I said, Cole Kmet, you got a wave of injured tight ends. So if you don't want to spend big on a tight end and you want to wait, he's a guy worth a look. The TJ Hawkinsons of the world are obviously expected to be real good this year, but do you want to take a number 5 tight end over a certain wide receiver? Maybe
Look at
not.
Kittle. Are you trusting Kittle this year? Not, it really didn't produce he was decent, but Travis Kelce low and beyond took the tight end spot. So do you really
But
try
you
George
saw in
Kittle
our
there?
draft where Kyle Pitts won the 3rd round.
Yep.
So after the top 3 big tight ends, how much stock are you putting in a rookie, or how much stock?
Mm-hmm.
We were very big on Mark Andrews last year. He didn't produce like he did the year before. Are you
True.
trusting Mark Andrews, or are you waiting, filling out your team, making sure you have the 3 or 4, some leagues are only 2 wide receivers. So, are you getting 4 solid wide receivers and then saying, all right, let me get my tight end? Are you spending big and grabbing a tight end early? Are you that team that wants to take 2 tight ends? I considered that in last night's draft just because no fans sitting there for no reason. Even though I had a tight end, maybe I snatch up another one just in case. And I said the same thing. You heard my call with Jimmy. I had Patrick Mahomes, and I took Baker Mayfield to back him up.
Do you
Do I
think it's
like?
smart taking a back-to-back quarterback? Like, not back-to-back, meaning you have a quarterback as a bench
I
position.
usually don't, but I feel like the way these leagues are set up now, if you wait until the bye week, which Mahomes is, I believe, a week 12 or 13 bye, if you wait that long, you may not, where you're going to lose that week because you're going to get buried because you're stuck with, Sam or Zach Wilson, where you don't have a capable backup. And even in my other league, I have Tom Brady. He started slow last year. So if Tom
Mm-hmm.
Brady's not performing the first couple weeks, I can throw Baker Mayfield in there and feel comfortable. And then if Tom Brady snaps out of it, he was my guy.
To answer your question, I'm looking at it right now. Give me 1 second. I'll tell you exactly what bye week Mr. Mahomes has.
I know I have them both. One has 13 and one has 12. Which one is which? I don't know. They
I
play each
believe
other
he
week 1.
has 13.
And well, I'm going to press you with that. Tell me one guy who you are staying away from this year. One of the top guys.
Oh God!
Give me a first or second rounder who you wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole.
All right, let's take a look, shall we? Let's take a look. Well, when it comes to quarterbacks, I fucking can't stand Matthew Stafford. But
Of
if you're
course, but
looking
he's not a
at
top 2 round pick, and a lot of the experts stay away from quarterbacks for a bit. So, tell me that guy. Are you scared off of Derrick Henry's production? Are you scared off of Saquon Barkley's injury history? Are you scared off of Ezekiel Elliott's physique per se? Are you scared off of a wide receiver, a tight end? Who scares you?
Calvin Ridley, you brought it up before, and I want to continue that conversation. Ridley scares me just because, he was a great player in the last couple of years, but like you said, he had Julio Jones, and Atlanta really doesn't look that great this year, and they haven't been looking great as the last couple of years. I mean, look at it. When we were drafting, we had
Mm-hmm.
Matt Ryan sitting there for how long? And I don't even
Yeah.
think he was drafted.
And he's
He
a
was
former MVP. Yep,
Yep,
exactly.
and he was not even taken. So my thing is, what's going on down in Atlanta? Is this going to be a team? Because if you remember, let's take a look at the last 5 years, shall we, of the NFC South. Everybody had a breakout year. Carolina looked good one year. The Saints, of course, looked good one year. You had even Atlanta look good one year, and of course, Tampa was looking great last year. But Atlanta hasn't looked good in a couple of years, and Matt Ryan has really lost a step or two. So you don't have that Julio Jones. I mean, Calvin Ridley has that potential, but I don't think he would be worth a top receiver, especially in a PPR league. I mean, you're looking at him right now, ranked number 10. I would easily take Hoskins over that. Why would you not take the Hoskins? Or you would take DK Metcalf. I'd even consider DK Metcalf because at least you have Lockett who can produce. You know, you have Chris Carson, you have Russell Wilson, you have people on Seattle that can produce. So, what is Atlanta showing me lately that makes me go, you know what, Calvin Ridley, he's the guy. That's right.
Is he a top 10 receiver for you? Is he
I
one
would.
of the 10 best receivers in the
I
league
take
still? Does he fall even further?
I take if Calvin Ridley was there in the 4th round, I take him in the 4th round. But if you're looking at, let's say, a 12-man league,
so he's your wide receiver 2 you'd be comfortable with, but not a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, he's definitely not a wide receiver 1. I wouldn't. You know, you're looking at 39, Mike Evans. I'd take Mike Evans over Ridley just because Mike Evans has produced, and even last year, yes, he was not the healthiest person, but he still got some balls and he still got some nice points. You know, you have AJ Brown, 40. AJ Brown had an incredible year. You would know. You picked him up and you love AJ Brown. You know, you got Robert Woods. You have these top tier receivers that are down in the late 30s, early 40s. Adam Thielen. You know how many times Adam Thielen saved my ass last year in fantasy? So you're going to tell me and look at me and say Calvin Ridley is a top receiver and a number 1 receiving spot? Absolutely not. I think that is horseshit. And until Matt Ryan shows me why he's the MVP of yesteryear, I would totally skip over Calvin Ridley. What is your thoughts on the top?
I think this could be a biased answer because he's killed me the last 2 years. But Barkley definitely scares me.
I was going to say too, Barkley's also in that discussion as well.
But I really, I don't. That would be the easy choice. I really don't like Nick Chubb. On a team with a great offense, with a lot of weapons, Kareem Hunt is dynamic behind him. And I watched too many Cleveland games last year, sitting in places, bars with DirecTV and whatever, where the Cleveland games are on. And now you got, it happened to Hunt more often, but, you had plenty of fantasy weeks where they both scored double digits. But is that worth a first-round pick, score 10 points? You want more out of a 1. And Hunt's going to cut into his points. And there was too many times where I saw where one or the other running back got the whole entire drive. You don't want that. Kamara, like I said, I took 3rd. There's not going to be, unless he's gassed or banged up, you're not going to get a 15-play drive from the Saints where Latavius Murray's out there the whole entire drive.
He's a 3rd down back. Is that a fair assessment?
For who?
For Latavius Murray. He's definitely a third down back. You're
definitely 3rd and short back.
Yeah, you're 3rd and 2. You go to Latavius Murray. But of course, I agree. Kamara is that.
But you're not getting a whole entire drive where Kamara's sitting on the bench. There was, like I said, it happened to Kareem Hunt more often, but there's times where I saw drives where one of them was just out the whole entire drive, and that doesn't make sense to me. And this is a team with a lot of weapons on offense. If you got a first-round pick, you don't want that guy sitting on the bench.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe I would consider him in the 2nd round, but I like Antonio Gibson better. I haven't been able to get him because I've been drafting in, I don't want to say bad spots because I've had decent luck, but like the 5th, even with the 5th pick, he didn't make it back to me. I think that was a 12-teamer. He didn't make it back to me. So, I haven't been lucky enough to get him, but I like Antonio Gibson more than I like Nick Chubb. And that's on a team with Ryan Fitzpatrick as a quarterback. They have weapons as well, but, there's no real threat to him. He doesn't have Kareem Hunt behind him who's going to take away carries. If Kareem Hunt gets hot, how are you putting Kareem Hunt on the bench type of deal? So I don't like that. I don't love that at all. And he's ranked with our scoring in last night's draft, I think he was ranked 6. And guess what? Did you take him at 6? You had the 6th pick.
No, I did not.
Okay. So, to an extent, you're on that same wavelength because, the first 5 picks were running backs. The easy choice is to go with another running back. And you chose not to. So, I know to an extent you understand my logic as well. He's the number 1 running back. but he's got a real good backup behind him, and
Mhm.
he may not be worth that number one value.
Well, that's why you see Zeke compared to Pollard, who is completely in a different fucking round by leaps and bounds because Zeke is the guy. But what I want to end on, and I'm going to use a 12-man league. So you're in a 12-man league. What would be the pick you want?
The draft number?
The draft number you want. You're in a 12-man league, 30 minutes. Your draft is coming up. The picks are randomized. What is the pick you want the most?
I mean, most people's answer is going to be one, so they could take McCaffrey. But I think I would rather sit back at like 10, 11, where you get those two picks in close proximity. And, you can kind of gauge draft and see what everybody's doing and then know what you want. Maybe somebody falls to you and you're like, boom, I got a steal. Kind of like what happened in that one league. Derrick Henry fell to me. Awesome. I'm not saying Derrick Henry's going to fall to 10 or 11, but maybe everybody's just so high on wide receiver running backs where the wide receivers last you, and you're like, okay, I could get lucky and do Adams and somebody else, or hey, I could be that guy who takes Adams at a tight end.
You could take, say, Adam Jones, and then on the comeback take maybe Hoskins, or you got Chubb there and
you
stuff like
literally
that.
get to see the draft play out in front of you, and then it's, I'm not saying it makes your decision easier because you're getting who you deem as the 10th or 11th best player, but you're seeing, and then come around third and fourth round, you can look at it and say, hey, do I start this trend of this? Am I that guy that takes the quarterback type of deal? You the draft plays out in front of you, and you get to look and see, and then you make your decisions.
So,
where we saw the whole big debate that they had on TV and stuff like that, and they're like, who do you really take at 3? That's the first pick where you got to make a decision. When you're back there, the draft comes to you, and then you get to kind of pick off of that. Like, okay, I like this guy. Boom. I don't like Nick Chubb. I'm going to pass on him. That type of deal.
So for me, and you kind of touched on it, I like 3 or 4. I think 3 or 4 is great because it's not number one. You get a within top 5 player, and say McCaffrey is taken, which mostly everybody takes as the first overall pick. Some people like Derrick Henry. Some people like Kamara. I'm the 3rd pick. Dalvin Cook comes to me. I'm taking Dalvin Cook. And then I have that top tier running back. And then as the draft comes back, I still have choices on the back end of great receivers. You're looking at here. I would have no issues in taking a Keenan Allen. Yes, he gets injured, but he's a great wide receiver. DK Metcalf is great. He was fantastic last year. He was one of the top receivers, and nobody's talking about him. And I feel with that 3rd, 4th pick, you have that top tier player, and then you also have that receiver that nobody's thinking about, or you have that running back in case you go with Devontae Adams or you go with Tyreek Hill. I mean, you get those big points right in the beginning, but you still have the opportunity to get a decent 2nd round and 3rd round pick.
I think 3 would have to be it. 4, because 4 gets ugly. You saw the scoring last night. 1 was McCaffrey, 2 was Cook, 3 was Kamara, 4 was Travis Kelce. So if 1, 2, 3 go Kamara, Cook, and McCaffrey, are you really taking Travis Kelce at 4?
I would take Derrick Henry, though. How do you not take the King?
But that's the question. Based on the scoring, realistically, he's not the next guy in line. You obviously you want to play to win. Is that really, is he a great running back? Yes. Will there be some regression? Probably. So like I said, is he the defined 4? He fell to me at 6 in another league. So
very true. Very true.
So that's what I mean. It gets a little dicey. So that's why I think I'd rather let it play out in front of me. Maybe let somebody make a pick where they're like, hey, if I don't take this guy now, I'm not going to get him. Where now I'm sitting back there. And like I said, I mentioned Antonio Gibson. Boom, at 10, I can take him at the front end of the 2nd round and get a guy who, hasn't made it around to me type of deal. So that's why I think being in the back has its advantages. But,
well, there you go. You have 2 different opinions. You have late round, you have early round. So I want to thank everybody for watching. And Joe, take it away, sir.
I'm going to thank everybody as well. And definitely, stop on in. Let us know who you think your sleepers are. Anybody who you want to stay away from. Anybody who you think's drafted too low.
Mhm.
And hopefully this is going to become a weekly thing, and we'll break down some games, break down some top performances. You know, maybe
See who's
some
hot and
people,
not.
yeah, who disappointed us for that week, who we had high hopes on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we
Mm-hmm.
got daily fantasy as well. You know, if you people are into that, you know, might be able to talk about getting some bargains in that. Everything else, but thank you everybody for checking out our. I guess we'll call it a preview episode.
That
See
sounds
where it
good.
goes. You know, people can see if they like. You know, this one ran a little longer than anticipated, but we had a bunch of things to talk about.
Yeah,
You know,
it's we're getting ready for football season, guys. Football season is 6 days away, according to this recording, as of right now. You got to get hyped. You got to get really into it. So, of course, you got to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, so you know exactly. Thursday comes, this video goes up. You know exactly where to check it out. Like he said, comment. Let us know what your thoughts are. And I think we'll have
absolutely,
a blasty blast of football season, and we'll
absolutely.
see
Maybe
what
we can get a
happens.
couple guests on here. You know, we'll see where that goes. But
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to thank
well,
you, Mr. Joe, for joining me.
and thank you for joining me and
We'll see you guys
co-hosting
next
with me.
time.
Yep.
Peace out.